You ever notice how fast the narrative can change in this league? One week you're riding high after a Super Bowl run, and the next, the same coaching staff is under scrutiny. And fans are already asking if the whole thing is about to crumble. That's the reality in Philadelphia. The conversation isn't just about the roster anymore. It's about stability, structure, and whether this organization can keep the momentum without falling back into that familiar cycle of chaos that we've seen too many times. Before we even dive into Eagles-specific stuff, there's something floating around the national media that deserves attention. It's the way Josh Allen is treated compared to other quarterbacks. After that playoff game, he had multiple turnovers that, in any other context, would have sparked a major backlash. But instead, the narrative seemed to shift into defense mode. Oh, don't blame him. He's a superstar. He's emotional. He's the face of the league. Meanwhile, if a different quarterback had made those same mistakes, you know the response would have been ruthless. Eagles fans remember that clearly. When the Chargers beat us and the turnovers were catastrophic, the reaction was immediate and harsh. Everyone had an opinion, and nobody was holding back. With Josh Allen, it feels like there's a different standard. Some voices in the media almost seem to defend him, simply because he's popular. I'm not here to start any debate about race or anything like that. But I will say this, the league and the media often want certain players to be the poster faces. They want them to represent the NFL. Josh Allen has been positioned as one of those guys, even though the championship result everyone keeps expecting still hasn't happened. Even the overtime rules were adjusted in his favor. Like the league wanted to give him the best possible chance to win it all, and yet, when the playoffs arrive, those turnovers show up at the worst possible times. I'm not denying he's talented. He's a great regular season quarterback and an elite athlete. But the postseason has become a recurring issue. It's not just a single game mistake. It's a pattern. And the national media tends to excuse it or downplay it because he's one of their favorites. That's why the backlash has been so muted. It's not that he doesn't deserve criticism. It's just that the narrative protects him. Now let's bring the focus back to what matters most for us, the Eagles. The big topic right now is the offensive coordinator search, and there's a lot to unpack. Reports suggest the Eagles interviewed Josh Grizzard, Tampa's passing game coordinator. That's interesting because he's one of those underrated names that doesn't come with a lot of hype. He's not a flashy, well-known offensive mind like Mike McDaniel or Cliff Kingsbury. But sometimes those are the guys who can come in quietly and make a real impact. The question is, has he called plays before? I'm not entirely sure, but what I do know is Tampa's passing game has been strong. And that's exactly what the Eagles need to improve. This is where the Kevin Patullo situation starts to feel strange. During the Super Bowl run, the passing game was the weak link, and it always seemed odd to promote the guy who was responsible for that area if the passing game was the biggest issue. Why elevate the person who oversaw it? It didn't make sense. But with Grizzard, there's at least a clear logic. He's been successful in Tampa, and maybe he deserves a shot. It's not the flashiest choice, but sometimes the best candidates are the ones no one is talking about. The Eagles clearly aren't rushing this search. And I know that frustrates fans. We want answers. We want someone who can stabilize the offense and restore confidence that the future is secure. But the truth is, they might be trying to find someone who checks every box. Will they stay for more than a year? Can they handle the pressure of Philadelphia? Can they bring success? Those are huge questions. And the Eagles have a reputation for being a tough place to work. I've seen reports suggesting offensive coordinators don't even want to come to Philadelphia. And when people hear that, they immediately blame Nick Sirianni. They say his playbook is too complicated, or he doesn't give coordinators enough control. And those are valid concerns, but I think it goes deeper than that. I think the real issue is that the front office and ownership maintain a tight leash on the coaching staff. They want control. They want to be the ones calling the shots. They don't want a head coach or coordinator who can come in and reshape the system entirely. That's why Nick Sirianni was hired in the first place. They wanted someone who fit within the structure they were comfortable with, and I'm starting to wonder if that's why even big names like Mike McDaniel might hesitate. Because what if he comes in and says, I need to bring my staff, I need to call the plays, I need freedom to run my offense, and the Eagles respond, no, you have to work within our system. That's not exactly an attractive pitch on the defensive side. Things might be different. Vic Fangio seems to have more freedom. And that makes sense, but on offense, it feels like the front office wants to keep Jeff Stoutland around no matter what, and I get it. He's a great coach and a key part of the offensive line's success, but if a coordinator comes in and wants to bring his own people or overhaul the system, there could be conflict. That makes the job feel unstable, because the truth is, the Eagles' offensive coordinator role has not been stable for years. Coaches get promoted, fired, or leave for other opportunities. And if you're an experienced coordinator looking at that, you're going to ask yourself, is this a place where I can build something long-term if the roster is uncertain? If the offensive line is questionable, if the star receiver seems unhappy, and if the quarterback situation is unclear, it's hard to sell that job to someone. We're looking at a roster with a lot of questions. Is Jalen Hurts the long-term answer? Can he be the quarterback of the future? Do we build around him? Or do we look elsewhere? Then you look at the offensive line and wonder if it's even healthy. Landon Dickerson has had injury issues. Cam Jurgens doesn't look like himself. And Lane Johnson is aging. Depth isn't strong. And then there's A.J. Brown, who has been vocal and seems unhappy. That's a lot for any coordinator to walk into. Now, let's keep going, because the questions don't stop there. Saquon Barkley is another huge uncertainty. He is an outstanding player, but he's also been dealing with injuries and the reality of aging. In a league that doesn't slow down, the question isn't just whether he can still be explosive, but whether he can remain reliable week after week. When you are trying to build an offense, you need certainty in the pieces you rely on. If you are not sure about the health or the future of your running back, it becomes harder to design a system that truly fits. Then you have Dallas Goedert. Will he return? Will he remain part of the offense moving forward? Those questions matter because he is one of the best tight ends in the league and a key piece in the middle of the field. When you have so many unknowns, it becomes difficult to convince a coordinator to come in and take on the job. The Eagles are already a high-pressure environment, and if the roster is uncertain, it makes the job even harder. A coordinator isn't just someone who calls plays. They shape the offense, manage the players, and help the quarterback grow. If the team doesn't have stability at that position, it affects everything. This is why the offensive coordinator search has become such a major storyline. The coordinator needs to be more than a play caller. They need to be a builder. They need to be someone who can create a system, manage personalities, and guide the team through the pressure. If the Eagles don't find stability there, the whole team will feel the impact. That's why this offseason is so important. It's not just about hiring a new coordinator. It's about deciding what kind of future the franchise wants. When you look at the history of this franchise, it becomes clear why the situation is so complicated. The Eagles have always been a team that wants control. They want to control the coaching staff, the system, and the direction of the team. And that isn't necessarily bad. Control can create consistency and a strong identity. But when it starts limiting the freedom of coaches and coordinators, it becomes a problem. You cannot attract the best talent if you are not willing to give them the tools to succeed. We saw that with Chip Kelly. He had early success, but the front office never fully let him run the team the way he wanted, and the same pattern has repeated itself with other coaches. The Eagles want control, and that creates friction. If you are a coach, you notice that. You ask yourself if you really want to work there. That is why the Eagles are having trouble attracting big-name offensive minds. It is not just about the city. It is not just about the pressure. It is about the structure and how the organization operates. I know some fans might say, but the Eagles won a Super Bowl, so why complain? And I get that. Winning a championship is a huge achievement, but it does not mean everything is perfect. It just means you had a great run. Now you need sustainability. You need a plan for what happens after the run ends. You need to build a team that can stay at the top, and if the coaching structure is unstable, it becomes difficult to do that. That brings us back to the question of Nick Sirianni. He has been successful, but the relationship with the front office seems strained. If he is on a short leash, it affects everything. It affects how coordinators view the job, how players view the team, and the long-term direction of the franchise. The way the Eagles handle coaching decisions has always been a topic in Philadelphia. We want success, but we also want stability. We want a coach who can stay long-term and build something. Switching gears a bit, we need to talk about Christian Parker. He is a coach who has been turning heads, and it is becoming increasingly clear that he is going to get a head coaching job soon. He has been doing a great job developing players and building a strong defense. and other teams are taking notice. He is already getting interviews with the Cowboys, and the Packers requested a meeting as well. That kind of momentum is hard to ignore. If I had to choose, I would rather see him go to Green Bay than Dallas. Seeing him in Cowboys colors would be difficult, especially because they are a division rival. But if he is going to leave, I hope it is somewhere that does not hurt us as much. And if Buffalo ends up opening the job, that might be the best outcome. We would see him less often, and it would be easier to handle. The thing is, he deserves the opportunity. He has proven himself as a top coach, and the way he has developed players like Darius Slay, Isaiah Rodgers, and others has been impressive. But as a fan, you want him to stay. You want the defense to continue growing under his leadership. But if the opportunity is too good, you understand why he would take it. When we talk about the Eagles and this coaching carousel, it is not just about who leaves and who comes in. It is about culture and how the organization operates. Philadelphia is a demanding city, and the Eagles are a franchise that expects results, but there is a fine line between high expectations and a toxic environment. And you start to wonder if the front office has crossed that line. When coordinators hesitate to even interview, you have to ask what the real issue is. Is it the coach? Is it the system? Or is it the way the organization handles control? Because let's be honest, if you are an offensive coordinator with a strong resume, you do not want to walk into a situation where you feel like you are just a placeholder. You want to implement your system and run it your way. You do not want to be second-guessed every step of the way, and if the Eagles are known for making sudden changes and putting pressure on coaches, that will scare off candidates. That is not just an opinion. That is a reality in this league. The offensive coordinator position in Philadelphia has become a revolving door. People get hired, promoted, fired, or replaced. It is hard to build continuity when you do not know who is going to be calling the plays from one season to the next, and that matters, especially for a quarterback like Jalen Hurts. He needs consistency. He needs a coach who can build a system around him and help him develop. And if the offense is constantly changing, it will hinder his growth. It will make it harder for him to reach his full potential. And speaking of Hurts, we have to be real about where he is in his career. He is a talented quarterback. He has leadership, toughness, and athletic ability, but the question is whether he is the long-term answer. Because if the answer is yes, the Eagles need to build an offense that fits him. They need to bring in a coordinator who is willing to tailor the system to his strengths. But if the answer is no, the Eagles need to be honest about that and start planning for the future. Either way, the uncertainty is affecting the coaching search. FlyEaglesFly News family, smash subscribe and hit like. Your support keeps the freshest Philadelphia Eagles updates flying in. Drop your take in the comments and let's talk birds. What began as quiet whispers inside front offices has suddenly exploded into what could become one of the most shocking player movements the league has seen in recent years. Multiple league sources are buzzing about a potential blockbuster trade framework between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots, a deal that, if finalized, would instantly reshape expectations on both sidelines. At the center of the storm is Eagles general manager ROSEMAN, once again proving that when the market goes quiet, it usually means he's working, according to insiders. Discussions have intensified around a surprise exchange involving high-profile talent, future assets, and strategic cap maneuvering. The Patriots, deep into a philosophical reset, are believed to be exploring ways to accelerate their transition by acquiring proven firepower, rather than relying solely on long-term development. Philadelphia, meanwhile, is reportedly weighing the benefits of turning elite value into flexibility, depth, and future control. What makes this rumor particularly explosive is the secrecy surrounding it. Executives around the league were allegedly caught off guard, learning of the talks only after momentum had already built. The sense is that both franchises see a rare alignment of needs, New England searching for identity and star power, and Philadelphia looking to stay aggressive without stagnating its roster core. ROSEMAN's fingerprints are all over the speculation, known for striking when others hesitate. He has a history of transforming risky conversations into franchise-altering moves. Some rival evaluators believe the Eagles could be leveraging their current strength to stay ahead of the competition rather than reacting later from a position of weakness. In New England, the possibility of landing a marquee name has reignited excitement among fans and analysts who felt the roster lacked a defining centerpiece. There's also talk that the Patriots may be willing to part with premium draft capital or a young, Cornerstone to make the gamble worthwhile, nothing is signed, nothing is official, and both organizations remain silent still. The growing chatter suggests this is more than idle gossip. If the framework holds and negotiations cross the finish line, this trade won't just be another transaction, it will be a statement. And once again, the league may wake up to find that Howie Roseman has flipped the board while everyone else was still playing checkers. That's a wrap from FlyEaglesFly News. If you want the fastest Eagles updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Sound off in the comments. Let's talk birds.